All right, this is that moment of truth. I forgot to do that thing with my knee where I kind of move it in. Let me do it. There we go. Yeah. How about that? How about that? I did it. I think YouTube is awake. Rockfin, where you at? Guys know me. I need to wait for it. Let some folks load in. There we go. Rockfin's awake. Ooh, did Rockfin beat YouTube? Yeah. I think Rockfin won. All right. It's not a competition, but today Rockfin woke up quicker than YouTube. Twitter is always first, but Rockfin was second. YouTube was third, which is last. That's last. But anyway, what's up, everybody? Good afternoon to all my East Coasters. My guest today is on the East Coast. Good morning to my fellow West Coasters. Good evening if you're in an evening time zone, and to everybody in the future, Australia, New Zealand. Thanks for getting up really early. I think it's like crazy early where you're at. So if you're out there, what's up? And to everyone listening to the podcast later, hope whatever you're doing is going swell. Shout out to everyone who makes this show possible. Our friends over at Indie Left. Indie Left compiles all the content from the streamers and article writers you know and love, and they make a nice list for you that they update twice a day. Great one-stop shop for your news. To find out everything they have going on and to subscribe to their Discord. I stumbled over that one. It almost sounded like I got like British there for a second almost. But anyway, for everything they got going on and to subscribe to their Discord, independentleft.media. All right, it is the last Wednesday of the month. Some of you know what that means. Others are about to know what that means. It means I am joined by my good friend, very funny comedian, straight from my old hometown of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Please welcome back to the show, Mr. Krish Mohan. What's up, Krish?
How's it going? Good to see you.
Good to see you, buddy. Always. Hope you are well. So, we're gonna jump right into this. I know that you've already covered this on your show some. I have not covered it yet. So this is my first time, but we're gonna go to Daniel Hale and everything that's going on there. Did I say his last name right? Is it?
No, you did. Yeah, it's
Oh,
Hale.
okay. All right. I just want to make sure there wasn't like any kind of trick there. So whistleblower Daniel Hale sentenced to 45 months. What did he do? He exposed the U.S. drone program. Here's the headline from Democracy Now! Daniel Hale was sentenced to 45 months in prison for leaking classified information exposing the U.S. drone and targeted assassination program. One of the things he exposed, by the way, was how many civilians actually get killed in our drone strikes. The answer, a freaking lot. A lot.
Too many.
Yeah, way too many. Well, one is too many, and it's a hell of a lot more than one.
Well, and he also revealed that they're all listed as enemies killed in action. So they're just claiming civilians are just enemies killed in action, as if civilians are the enemy of the United States military, which is so ridiculous.
So here's what Edward Snowden tweeted. Hale's crime was telling the truth. 90% of those killed by U.S. drones are bystanders, not the intended targets. He should have been given a medal. That's what would happen if we lived in a just society. I want to get to his full quote here. So let me go ahead and pull this up. This is from The Independent. You can find this quote in a couple different places, but this is just the first place I found it. I want to read it. So bear with me while I scroll down here. So he started his leaks in 2019. And here's his quote when he was sentenced. I think this is powerful. You ready for this? I am here because I stole something that was never mine to take. Precious human life. I couldn't keep living in a world in which people pretend that things weren't happening that were. Please, Your Honor, forgive me for taking papers instead of human life.
Oh,
that's powerful.
That's a mic drop.
Yeah, big time.
Holy shit.
Big time.
And have you read his letter? That
I haven't read the full thing. I've read bits and pieces. Like we're not gonna read it all here. But what were some highlights for you?
Yeah, well, I particularly liked how the primary focus of it was about mental health, and he frames it about his own mental health, but the larger scope of it is you don't really understand how PTSD works until you start experiencing it, and how PTSD relates to depression. The big part for me that like floored me and had me like, kind of tearing up because some of my veteran friends that I know, who are big lefty anti-war activists now, he basically says the truest truth is that what the American military does is that it produces trauma. That's its export. That's what it does in every facet. All it does is create trauma. And in a country like America, where we kind of champion the military and champion like how big and how powerful the military is and what an honor it is to serve in the military and all this other stuff, we never really talk about the trauma that the soldiers go through. And where that's reflected the most is I have friends, mutual friends that we have that had to wait 10 years to get any sort of like basic mental health service from the VA, partly because they don't have enough funding to take as many veterans as America creates, right? Like I think in 2017 it was reported that 0.1% 0.1% of the war budget, and that's what I keep calling it, the war budget. 0.1% it goes to the VA, which is next to nothing. Like they're just like, okay, yeah, we keep creating veterans that come back and they're all fucked up and they're homeless, and we just want them to be here's some money. Go.
Well, and
go over there.
barely any of it goes to the troops in
Right.
general. Like it's like we have this beyond bloated war budget that goes to defense contractors and the profiteers, and then and it's at the behest of oil companies. Meanwhile, like the people who are serving, who were sold a lie, they have to replace their own boots out of their own pocket if it
Yeah.
gets damaged. So it's like, yeah, this isn't. And then we're sold this other lie of like, oh, well, if you don't support the budget, you don't support the troops. Like, no, supporting the troops means ending these pointless wars. That's what
Yeah.
supporting the troops means, not
Yes.
supporting these ridiculous budgets that aren't going to the troops anyway. These people, most of the people who serve are crushed by economic circumstance, so they pretty much have no choice, and or they buy into the lie that they're doing something good for the world.
Yeah,
But meanwhile, they're just sent as pawns at the behest of oil companies.
they become cannon fodder for the rich. And look at the way that we've treated people like Daniel Hale, who call out the American military for what it is. Just like that statement where he was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I stole papers and not human life." It kind of harkens back to some of the stuff that Eugene Debs was saying in 1918, where he was basically saying, "Look, when is the last time the working class actually got to broker a peace deal or say, yeah, we do want to go to war?" It's never. The working class never get to do that. And for making that statement, he was in prison for, I think his sentence got commuted after 4 or 5 years because they decided that the Sedition Act was legitimately too insane to be a law in a country that claims there's freedom of speech. Like, but we send these people to prison. That's what happens in America. And then people want to claim that this is the land of the free and all this and the home of the brave. Well, I feel like Daniel Hale is probably one of the bravest people that we all know, and he's going to prison for
So
it.
technically, it's his home. He's just in jail.
He's just in jail.
It's
Yeah.
so it's like it is the home of the brave. They're just in jail. A lot of them.
Yeah. They all spend 3 to 5 years in prison for being brave. They're like, thank you for being brave.
Thank you for you still get to live here. I mean, you still your residence is here. We screen all your mail and emails for at least a little while, and probably forever. We're gonna do it when you get out of here. But
and you won't get to vote after you leave either. But thank you for
thanks for your bravery, though.
Yeah.
Thanks for your bravery. That was solid. Well, so one of the things they use to prosecute this guy is the Espionage Act, which is the same thing that they're trying to use against Julian Assange, among others. I mean, it's the thing that they always call to whenever they need to when it comes to whistleblowers, and usually they get to call to it. So just a quick refresher on what that is actually. That, first of all, that goes back to World War One. And here's just like the tidbit. We're not going to read the whole freaking thing, obviously, but here's like the basic. Here, let me scroll down here. The Espionage Act of 1917 was passed 2 months after America's entrance into World War I. It was, quote, an act to punish acts of interference with the foreign relations the neutrality and the foreign commerce of the United States, to punish espionage, and better to enforce the criminal laws of the United States and for other purposes. Unquote, or end quote. It was intended to prohibit interference with military operations or recruitment, to prevent insubordination in the military, and to prevent the support of United States enemies during wartime. First of all, I'm sure if they tried hard enough, they could make that even more vague. It'd be an effort, but they could probably do that if they tried hard enough. And second of all, keep in mind when this came out when there was a world war going on. And then it also stuck around when there was a second world war going on, and there were actual Nazis trying to infiltrate the United States military, among other things. That's what this act was built around. It is in desperate need of, at the very, very least, updating.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand like the military is going to have policies like this, but this is such an outdated thing that is so broad and vague and is used for very deceptive means, like prosecuting whistleblowers.
And it's never actually gone after people that have committed espionage and treason, such as J.D. Rockefeller, who was selling American Standard Oil to the Nazis to help them fly their plane, and Prescott Bush, who was helping the Nazis funnel money through his bank. But these people are fine, right? These are the titans of industry that we're all supposed to champion. Like, and their kids end up becoming politicians.
Of course,
both the Bush kids were presidents. One of the Bush kids was,
and they knocked it out of the park. They really they knocked it out of the park. Very qualified. they did a wonderful job.
They nailed it. They were like, how do we keep the wars going forever? What if we just constantly lie to people?
Literally, I mean, the Bush administration. I mean, that's the thing. It's like I think people still understate the Bush administration big time, especially whenever they're just like, oh, Trump was worse. No, he wasn't. Are you kidding? The Bush administration was by far the worst administration of our lifetimes, by far. Yeah. And even people are like, well, Obama dropped more drones. Yeah, that's true. And it's because of the war machine that the Bush administration put on freaking autopilot.
Yeah.
Like, they put it on autopilot. They launched the new American century. They launched we're going to target these 7 countries and counting. They put it on autopilot. And then they said to Obama, hey, don't touch that dial. And he said, okay. and Trump, same thing. Don't touch that dial. Like, okay. Yeah. Biden, don't touch that dial. Biden ain't touching that dial.
No way.
I mean, Biden said they were going to de-escalate, but meanwhile, airstrikes are ramping up again in Afghanistan. At the end of the day, the military-industrial complex gives the president orders, not the other way around. And the president, when it comes to the military-industrial complex, all the president is their PR person.
Yeah.
The last person who bucked that system, arguably, was JFK. And look at how it worked out for him.
See what happened? Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't go great.
It didn't go well.
Did not go great.
If I'm not mistaken.
So it is this like incredibly dated act that was implied for serious wartime, world wars, that they just use to persecute whistleblowers. People who have actually violated what the act's supposed to be. Nah. But whistleblowers, that's what they use it for.
Yeah, it's America's shoot the messenger policy. That's really what it boils down to. And in certain respects, from the collateral murder video that Julian Assange revealed, that is literally their policy. Their policy is to shoot the messenger because they killed 2 Reuters journalists. And that's just the way America operates. And then it's funny because I have arguments with people, when you point out like actual history, or you say like, hey, socialism would be a lot better in this sort of circumstance, and you have these arguments, and they go, oh, well, you lose so many freedoms when it comes to socialism and communism. It's like, well,
like
what are you talking about?
What freedom? Yeah, I love that one.
Do what? Yeah, what are we going to lose? The freedom to drone war countries we have no fucking business being in? Great, I'm willing to lose that freedom.
Do you ever see that one meme where they made the argument that under socialism there's not different brands of cereal? Do you ever see that meme where they're just like, what? Don't you like having different cereals? Thank capitalism. Don't you like having variations of themed sugar with a nice cartoon mascot? Thank capitalism. Which, first of all, guess what? You get different brands of cereal in socialism. Oh, and by the way, exchanges happen under socialism. I know people love to be. There's no exchanges under socialism. There's
Yeah.
no and especially as a performer, and I'm sure you get this too. They're like, you say you're not a capitalist, but people have to buy a ticket to go to your show. You think exchanges don't have? I mean, I don't know Das Kapital inside and out. Most people don't. It's a very long book, but if there's a segment where he goes, oh, and by the way, performers don't get paid for what they do, please find it and point it out to me, and I'll say, well, that's a passage I disagree with. I don't think exchanges happen under socialism. Okay, folks, it just happens.
I've definitely had that conversation, and it's one of those ridiculous ones where it's like, oh, so you're fine with the ideas that I'm presenting, you just don't want me to eat while presenting those ideas. Like, why don't you want your the people that you support and champion their views and ideas and all that? Why don't you want them to be able to afford food and rent and like all of their bills? That it's just such a foolhardy argument. It doesn't make any sense. And the reality is, we're all socialists right now operating inside capitalism. That's the problem. It's socialism operating inside capitalism.
Well, yeah, that's a big thing. They think it's a big gotcha where they're like, but you're operating in a system for survival. And it's like, yeah, that's one of the reasons why I criticize it. I see how freaking terrible it is. Yeah, I participate to an extent for survival. We all do. And that's why we want to see it change. And by the way, exchanges happen in socialism. Markets happen in socialism, most forms of socialism. So this whole idea, I mean, that's the USA brainwashing. They try to attribute all these things to capitalism that have nothing to do with capitalism.
But I've never Daniel Hale, for example, too, is somebody that was trying to organize dishwashers when he got his job, and then he got fired for trying to unionize dishwashers so that they could get paid better and treated better, which they should, which they absolutely should. Especially
everybody should.
Everybody should.
All laborers should. I mean, everybody should be. And it's so funny, man. We covered this on the show on Monday, but hearken it to Pittsburgh for a second. Earlier this week, everybody walked off in the Southside Burger King, one of the local Burger Kings in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Meanwhile, you just go a couple neighborhoods over to the Strip District. They figured out the solution to all this: pay people a freaking living wage.
Yeah.
An ice cream shop, same city, offered people $15 an hour, got a record number of applicants.
Record number of applicants, and their sales went up because when people find out that you're treating your employees better, guess what? They want to eat your ice cream. I have not.
And you got happier employees,
right? And so your service is a lot better. Like there are certain places that I like going to because I know that they're treating their employees better, and the way I know that is because they're actually freaking excited to be there.
Sure,
they're actually nice to the customer. It's not just, hey, how you doing? Oh yeah, you want the chocolate? Great, here it is. Have a nice day. Like they're friendly. They talk to you. And that's the other myth. And Pittsburgh did something else too that people kind of freaked out about. There was a restaurant here that got rid of tipping for their servers and their wait staff, but that's because they paid them a living wage, and they're now co-investors in the company. So it's a worker co-op.
That's the way to go.
Yeah.
Well, there's study after study, especially in other countries where tipping isn't really. It's not that you don't do it at all, but it's like you would just leave like an extra euro or something to just say, hey, thanks. Like you don't tip 20% like you do here. It's so much better because it makes people feel like they're actually part of something.
Yeah.
As opposed to just most servers, and justifiably so, they just kind of feel like they're independent contractors, really, because they're just working for tips, and they don't really feel like they're part of the restaurant itself, and they some of them work in multiple places, and they're just they're justified in feeling that way. But whereas if you actually gave people a slice of the company and gave them a living wage, like now all of a sudden they're part of what you do.
Right.
They're part of your restaurant, and everything reveals like that's so much better for the restaurant and for everybody involved.
Yeah, I mean, people freaked out. I remember when that happened, people freaked out, and I was far less educated on all this stuff. So I was even like, "Oh, I don't know how this is going to work. How are you going to kind of make some?" And then the second I saw, like a couple weeks later, they were like, the employees are happier, customers are happier, and the restaurant just had record sales because, and part of it was because of the publicity of it, but the other part of it is because they just got better service there.
Yeah,
You know?
it doesn't have to be this shitty, folks. I
Yeah,
think that's the biggest theme of this show, and it's just like, yeah, we don't. It doesn't have to be this shitty in the United States. Like, it really doesn't.
yeah.
Like, we can do better. Like it doesn't have people. No, it has to be this shitty. It really, like, when you think about it, it just has to be this shitty. We can't. I know that healthcare is the leading cause of bankruptcy amidst people. But it just has to be this way.
But what are you gonna do?
Every other industrialized country didn't figure this one out. None
Yeah.
of them have it figured out. It's not like there's countries all over the world who figured this out a long freaking time ago. That's we have to pillage the world. We have to be an empire. If we don't do it, someone else who will. No one else says, no, we're the freaking empire. There doesn't have to be an empire pillaging the world. We don't have to. We don't have to make Game of Thrones a fucking reality all the time. We don't have to do that. No, the world doesn't have to be that way. In fact, we have a common goal here in the world, and it's called let's combat climate catastrophe. We have a task ahead as one world. Why don't we declare a war on that?
Yeah,
that's a quote war I could get behind. If we have a war to save the planet and to be better stewards of the earth.
That's to bring it back to Daniel Hale too, is that's one of the leading causes of climate change is warfare. The amount of damage that it does, and then just the supplies and the movement of troops, all of that is just disastrous for the climate. And there's so much waste when it comes to warfare too. So it's like, yeah, if you're somebody that's anti-war, then yes, you're also a champion for the planet. Like you are somebody that should be combating climate change. You are somebody that should be combating the fossil fuel industry. And what's also funny is the arguments that we're making now. People over 100 years ago made the exact same argument. It's just the themes just keep coming back up. And
Smedley Butler revealed everything a long time ago.
Yeah.
I mean, war's a racket. He wrote that a long time ago. So one last thing here before we move on from Daniel Hale. After his sentencing, at least there's some really feel-good news here, Krish. I try to keep it light sometimes. And here's something that'll make all of us feel better. Boom! Obama is setting up a big bash to celebrate his 60th. Huh? Doesn't that... I mean, come on. Sure, a whistleblower went to jail for revealing war crimes and how our drones are killing civilians all the time. But Obama's going to have a cool party. Right? I mean, can't we all just come together? Former President Barack Obama planning a big bash for his 60th in Martha's Vineyard.
Oh,
the former president, who has spent recent weeks at his home on the posh island, is expected to be joined by dozens of friends at his oceanside abode, set on nearly 30 acres. Here's some intellectual drop here. It's going to be big. Who said that? One source. Everything's fine. What an empire. What an empire. Hey, your drones are the drones are killing civilians. I can't live with myself anymore. I need to reveal this. Straight to jail with you. Go back to sleep, plebs. Obama's having a big party. Feel good for him. This is a feel-good moment for all of us. Just like the last feel-good moment where a billionaire went to space for 5 seconds in his penis rocket. Feel good. Feel good. Go back to bed. We're an empire. We are an empire. If you didn't realize it yet, I'm here to tell you. United States, it's an empire. It's a failed state.
It's an oligarchy.
Catastrophe. It's an oligarchy.
I mean, that's proof. The Hill that's the big story on the Hill is like, that's crazy. Do you think George Bush is invited? Do you think the Bush family is going to come hang out? That's what George W.'s gift is.
George W. is invited. Michelle has some candy. Michelle has some Werthers in her pocket. She's going to give him a Werthers.
Brock, I bought you a painting I made.
We share the same values. I saw it in his soul. Dude.
Just the fact that we've gone to just making George Bush into this soft, like, oh, he's so
rehabilitated him.
cushy, and it's just like, what do you like? Did you forget about the shit that his
Yes!
administration did?
Everyone
Are you crazy?
did. Everyone
It's
forgot.
nuts. Like, and then the same thing with this, right? We're talking about how Obama's gonna have a birthday bash. It's like, did you forget the crazy shit he did during his administration? Like, the economy collapsed. People ended up being homeless. Immigrants were being deported left and right, and he expanded warfare using drones and killed a bunch of civilians. But
we got college football playoffs. Dude, I mean, it's just, well, and yeah, like the rehabilitation of George W. Bush is so nuts. And it's like Gore Vidal said it a long time ago. We're the United States of amnesia. And it's going to be so painful but hilarious when they rehabilitate Trump, which I'm thinking is going to start in 2022.
Yeah.
I'm thinking by 2022, that's going to start.
He's going to be the goofy television commentator. Oh, doesn't he say wild things? It's just like, no, did you guys not fucking remember how did you go from spending 4 years and not paying nonstop attention to his tweets to, oh, look at this goofy, like, but you're right.
It'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see. So let's go over to New York City, where some protests are happening. Status quo is on the ground there. And they're saying, so Susan Sarandon joined everybody. There's hundreds of striking Alabama UMWA workers protesting outside of BlackRock in New York City. They're protesting for better conditions and better wages. And they came all the way from Alabama. They're protesting BlackRock because BlackRock is a main shareholder, in the companies that employ them. So check this out. Here's this guy here.
Come on, New York. Come on up.
So Susan Sarandon's about to take the stage.
Always got something to say.
Oh, cool. Oh,
you got to be happy for this guy.
That's awesome.
He's so jazzed. Susan Sarandon's there. This is my lucky day.
Wait a minute. Get a picture of me, Susan.
Yes.
I'm the man of her dreams, is what she just told me.
Thank you so much for being here. I welcome you to New York City, my home.
Sir Susan Sarandon.
And when our union was on strike for 6 months, it was the AFL-CIO that kept us afloat. I thank you.
Nice.
They gave us office space and they helped us when we had no money left. So I know what it's like to be a union person who's struggling for what's right, for what is owed to you. BlackRock is a horrible smear on the vision of the United States. And
I like that. BlackRock is a horrible smear on the vision of the United States. Ain't that the freaking truth? And here's something else from their coverage on the ground. Hundreds of striking UMWA coal miners from Alabama are protesting in front of BlackRock New York City headquarters for better wages and working conditions. BlackRock is the biggest shareholder of Alabama workers' parent company.
Those coal mines where we
So here we go. Let's listen to this guy. Here, hold up. Let me start it from the beginning. So here's one of the speakers.
Need to get us a contract. Do you hear that, BlackRock? Get us a fair contract and we'll go away. We'll go back to work in those coal mines where we should be. That's right. That's right. We rode up here on buses to tell you your investments need to be being put to use in these guys' salaries and these guys' benefits. These guys that have earned you the profits that you're making from these coal mines.
So you can see more of their content, first of all, exclusively on the Rockfin. There's more status quo content from this strike and protest exclusively on Rockfin. And, first of all, I'm thrilled to see it. I'm thrilled to see all those workers striking. I'm thrilled to see them demanding better wages and better treatment. But, man, at the same time, and of course through no fault of theirs, but isn't it sad that we're not even to a place yet where people are demanding more sustainable, environmentally friendly jobs? They're just demanding being treated like human beings at the dangerous jobs that they're doing.
Right.
Being in the coal mine is extremely dangerous. There's no reason for anyone to still be in one. No reason at all. We should be past that. We're destroying the freaking planet. We're destroying like this is not sustainable in any way. We're not even really fulfilling our energy needs the way we could be. We're just padding the pockets of oil and gas company. I mean, we would find sustainable solutions real quick. Like we
Oh,
would find
absolutely.
like if they just were like fossil fuels, we're done. Tomorrow there would be a lot more sustainable solutions really quick. It's not like all of a sudden our transportation needs are going to come to a halt in the
Right.
freaking world. That's not going to happen. Like it just isn't. They're going to find there's more solutions already there. We're just not investing in them the way we could be. And even Wall Street's catching on to this because Wall Street is starting to divert from fossil fuels. Even freaking Wall Street. They're not doing that because of their moral compass. They don't give a shit about you or anyone else. They're doing that because they realize this is the past.
Yeah. And that's, and you know, if we decided, hey, we're gonna divest from all this, it would be folks like the folks like the ones that are striking in New York that would be leading the charge in finding a more sustainable way to live our lives, to provide energy for people, because they are probably going to be the ones that are going to be doing those jobs just like they did before, right? And that's one of those things. I remember that Eleanor Goldfield's documentary Hard Road of Hope. They talk about like what working in the coal mines meant, you know, the purpose they got and the pride they felt. And you can basically do the same thing. You can basically take that same concept of pride and feeling like you're providing something for this country with something like solar energy or
Totally.
wind or anything renewable. It would be the same thing. You're doing the exact same thing. You're just now also helping the planet, right? Like you're benefiting, you're making sure that there's not a hole in the ozone, or we don't
And
have
you're not
these crazy
destroying
climate
your
trips.
body.
Right.
You're
Yeah.
not getting black lung and stuff like that.
And it's interesting. I would be interested to hear what their thoughts on that is, because that is another part of the rhetoric, is that it's a dangerous job, so it's very manly to do. Oh, what do you want me to clean some solar panels? That's not man. And it's like, why does the jobs don't need to be manly or hyper masculine or whatever. They just need to be something that needs to be done and that you like doing. Like anything can be a job. Lee Camp says that all the time. Anything could be a job. You could pay people to go plant more trees tomorrow if you want, and there would be a line of people that would be happy to do that job. You know, I it's just ridiculous that we don't look at those things as possible considerations for jobs.
Well, yeah, and that really just goes to show you how we really have two just Wall Street oil and gas owned parties, because such a huge key to victory is a real Green New Deal. Not just the astroturfing of it, but like a real genuine Green New Deal, the eco-socialist Green New Deal that the Green Party got internationally, which is where the Green New Deal started. You know, that is such a winning thing, because people in rural America, I mean, a lot of them migrated to Trump the first time because he was making these bogus promises. I'm going to reopen the steel mills. I'm going to do this. It was a bunch of baloney, and it would have been a disaster even if it wasn't baloney. But people bought it because they were desperate. They were desperate. And if someone would have came along and been like, I'm not going to reopen the steel mills, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to give you a new environmentally sustainable job because we are facing a climate catastrophe and you're going to be on the forefront of a better tomorrow. We're going to be better stewards for the earth. People don't like just want to keep doing what we're doing because they love the sickness it gives them. They just want a job. They want a job.
Yeah. And that could literally be anything.
Yeah.
At this point, it doesn't have to be being in a coal mine.
It could be sustainable, environmentally friendly. Instead of a temporary job on a fracking well that destroys the environment, it's a temporary job anyway, and then you just move on to whatever's next. You could have a sustainable, environmentally friendly job in wind or solar or building batteries, like whatever it may be,
or vertical farming. I mean, there's so many different things that you could do on these small little levels to help the environment. And it's just those things are kind of, the Republican Party likes to just kind of shove those to the side, because again, it goes back to it not being masculine enough. And then the Democrats just kind of go, oh well, we would, but we're going to lose anyway. And they come up with whatever excuses to let the Republicans get whatever the fuck they want anyway. So it's just, it's not in that two-party system. So I mean, you're right. It is really interesting to watch these guys just asked to be treated like human beings to do this very dangerous job, because that's where they have to start. And once they're treated like human beings, they're like, hey, how about we try something more sustainable and something that's not wildly dangerous? That's something that people were doing 100 years ago and losing their lives pretty consistently. Like, we don't have to keep doing this anymore.
Yeah, we should be further than this. But shout out to the workers. I hope all their demands are met. Shout out to them. Shout out to the UMWA. Shout out to Status Quo for being on the ground covering it. And shout out to Susan Sarandon for lending her voice to the cause. That is all awesome. So, Krish, I got one more headline for us today. And this is just a little, it's kind of pop culture-y, but it's not necessarily light or good news. But I kind of wanted to mention it on the show today. It's all over the news, and it's kind of sad. Bob Odenkirk is hospitalized. He collapsed on the Better Call Saul set. Did you hear about this?
No, I did not.
So we don't know a ton right now, but Better Call Saul star Bob Odenkirk was rushed to the hospital yesterday after collapsing on the set of the AMC show. So he's in the hospital in New Mexico. That's where they are still filming Better Call Saul. And I mean, we don't know much as of the recording of this. There haven't been any updates, but I wish him a very speedy recovery, and I'm really bummed out to see it. Here, let me just Google it real quick to make sure there's like nothing breaking.
As we say this, he's a fantastic actor, and if you don't know him from Better Call Saul or Breaking Bad, you should know him from Mr. Show.
Totally.
And well, I think it was called Dave and Bob, or Bob and Dave. They brought a version of Mr. Show back to Netflix a few years ago, and it's a really, really fun sketch show that they did. And there's a couple interviews where he talks about like sketches that they couldn't do on Mr. Show because it was the subject matter was a little too taboo. And one of them, I remember hearing this interview, and he like acts it out a little bit, and it's so funny. It's what if Martin Luther King Jr. had to like psych himself up before he made a speech, like he's kind of in the back of the congregation, and it's this really great piece because it's just like it humanizes your hero, right? Like he's going over a speech and he's just like, I have a dream. You really want to say that? Is that really how you want to start? Like it's stuff like that, and it was just such a great concept for a sketch. But I could totally see if they tried to do that on network television, like how much they would get lambasted for even daring to humanize someone like MLK. So,
I mean, well, and so anyway, I just was Googling it, and as of right now, his condition has not been released. Hopefully he's okay, and hopefully he makes a swift recovery. We're not even exactly sure what's wrong with him, but hopefully he is okay. I met him once.
Oh, really?
Dude, it was kind of funny. So I was at a coffee shop like in Hollywood with someone I know who's a pretty successful writer. He writes for it was 30 Rock, and then there's something else he writes for now. But he was a pretty successful Hollywood writer. And it was just like I was new to town, so like we were just having a lunch meeting, just kind of talking shop. And somebody walks by and in a hat and glasses, and he says hello to him. And I feel like I recognize the voice, but I'm not sure. And then they just start talking, and he goes, "Oh, what are you up to?" And he goes, "Yeah, we're gonna do another season of da da da." The writer says that, and he goes, "Oh man, if you got anything available, keep me in mind." And then they kind of both half chuckle at it, And I'm thinking, and I'm still not realizing that it's Bob Odenkirk.
Right.
And I'm still thinking, I'm like, dude, I applaud this guy's courage. He's clearly an actor, and he's just saying, hey, man, if you got a job, I'm available. Kudos to this guy. And then I look and I'm like, that's Bob Odenkirk. That's Bob Odenkirk. So he goes, hey, this is Ron. You know, my writer friend goes, this is my friend Ron. And he goes, hey, I'm Bob. And I'm like, hello. And I played it off. I was like, don't be,
cool.
yeah. Like, I was like, don't be like, whatever. So I just kind of played it cool. I said, hey, cool to meet you. How are you? And, you know, the three of us just kind of bullshitted for a little bit. And then I said, hey, man, it was nice to meet you, Bob. And he's like, oh, yeah, thanks. You too. And he left. And then afterwards, my buddy was like, did you know who that was? And I'm like, yeah, I just didn't want to, you know, we play it cool here in Hollywood, I was told. I'm trying. Let me tell you how this business works, buddy. I've been living here 3 weeks. I get it.
Oh man, I definitely I have to keep reminding myself to play it cool, because especially in Pittsburgh, like when they were filming a whole bunch of stuff here, there would just be actors kind of walking around different neighborhoods, and I don't. Do you know who David Morse is? Does that name ring a bell?
I mean, kind of. If you remind me, like
he's like a character actor. He was in 12 Monkeys. He was the bad guy in 12 Monkeys.
Okay, and he was just walking around.
Yeah, and like nobody, because he's kind of
wasn't
like a little bit.
Wasn't the Aquaman guy? Wasn't he in town in Pittsburgh for a long time for something?
Yeah,
he was filming some kind of thing.
Yeah, and he likes hanging out here apparently, and he just kind of shows up and to like concerts or whatever, and he'll just kind of hang out in the back of the room, like, and he's apparently super chill. But again, I would do the exact same thing.
It's kind of funny how like all the sort of bro-y actor types like Pittsburgh a bunch.
Yeah.
like that guy likes it a bunch. And Russell Crowe freaking loved it. Like Russell Crowe really loved Pittsburgh. He was always talking about how much he liked Pittsburgh.
Taylor Lautner did the same thing when he was here. And
yeah.
Like he really likes the city too. And it's just, I think it's because most people don't do what I did to David Morse, which is as he was walking by, I pointed at him and I shouted credits at him. I literally screamed 12 Monkeys at this man's face.
Yeah, that's probably not.
And he very politely was like, yep, thank you. I appreciate it. And then just kept walking. And then I was like, I should go apologize. But he was already like 2 or 3 blocks down the street.
I mean, I'm sure you didn't offend him, but yeah, no. That's funny.
But I was like, that's a person. And I just yelled movies he was in for like 2 straight minutes at him. And he was very cool about it. But then I have to constantly be like, just play it cool, Krish. They're also human beings. It's okay.
Well, a buddy of mine, one of my college buddies, he lived in the same neighborhood. And this was in Chicago, actually. But he lived in the same neighborhood as the actor who played Steve on Stranger Things.
Oh,
I forget that actor's name, but you know, I mean, that guy was just a kind of chill, regular dude. Like he played in a band in Chicago and stuff. And when he got the Stranger Things gig, that kind of was pretty time consuming. So I think the band kind of moved on without him because they're to my understanding, they're a relatively established band. Like it was keeping him pretty busy. So they kind of had to move on without him when he got the Stranger Things opportunity. Which I guess is a cool conundrum to have. Yeah. Do I go on one of the most popular shows in production right now or get to be in a successful band, which is harder and harder to do these days. But anyway, yeah, he lived in the same neighborhood as my buddy. He might still, I don't know, but my buddy would, every time he'd say it, would be like, Steve from Stranger Things. But I think it got to the point where like Steve was kind of and I forget the actor's name, but I think he was kind of like he got a kick out of it after, like he was kind of in on it too. He'd kind of laugh and just because he's a kind of distinguished, like he has that big pompadour type thing.
Yes.
So he's a relatively distinguished looking guy. So I'm sure like, especially when the show was at the height of his popularity, which it will be again soon when the next season comes out. But like I'd imagine.
Oh yeah.
You know, people probably recognized him, and yeah. So wishing all the best. I hope Bob Odenkirk is okay. I'm really sorry to hear that. Do you watch Better Call Saul?
I haven't. I was a big Breaking Bad fan, and I just once that show
Better
ended,
Call Saul.
Yeah, I know. I really need to. You're like the 5th person that's like you got to watch that show. So it's on my list, and I think I should probably start watching it soon because it's. it sounds like it's right up my alley. And I really liked him in Breaking Bad. I thought he when he showed up, like, you could definitely, there was a turn in the season when he shows up.
Yeah, I mean,
And
he was a standout character. That's why he
Yeah.
got his own spinoff. And dude, I loved Breaking Bad. I thought it was brilliant. I feel like Better Call Saul, and this is their final season that they're filming,
Right,
by the
right.
way. I feel like Better Call Saul is on pace to be even better.
Oh,
I think,
Okay.
and they are both excellent shows. I think Better Call Saul, in my opinion, is on pace to be even better. The seasons have just been absolutely incredible.
which is also kind of rare because you never really expect a spin-off to be as good or better than the original show that you saw these characters in. I guess like Frasier might have been a little bit more popular than Cheers. I don't know how true that is, but
I liked Frasier a lot. And
I did too.
I never got into Cheers. Not intentionally, I just never got into it. I've thought about trying it at some point. Especially since I
Yeah.
have more ties to Boston now in my life because my wife is from that area. So
Right.
so I have a little more like New England ties now in my life than I ever did before because of her. So but yeah. Well, anyway, Bob Odenkirk, get better soon. Krish, where can everybody go to learn more about you and what do you have coming up?
I have got some live shows coming up. I've got a show in Pittsburgh on August 14th, a show in Williamsport on September 17th, and a show in Louisville on September 29th. And I'm adding a bunch more dates as we speak. So the best place to find all that information is right on my website, which is krishmohanhaha.com. It's KRISHMOHANHAHA.com. You can find all my videos, podcasts, and ways to donate and become sustaining members on right on there.
Awesome, folks. And since live shows are on your mind, I got a bunch of tour dates too. Graham Elwood and I, we're going back on the road. We got a ton of cities announced: Sacramento, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Tempe, Tucson. Then we're going out east: Detroit, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, New York City, Washington, D.C., Asheville, North Carolina, Jacksonville, Gainesville, Orlando, Miami, Tampa, Nashville, Louisville, Indianapolis, Chicago, Minneapolis, Madison. Romplacone.com for all those tickets. We can't wait to see you this fall. And yeah, you can get all the other information on my website as well. Romplacone.com, ways to donate, become a patron. You know the drill. And you also know the drill. In the meantime, Milo, that's Krish's cat. Is it Milo or Miles?
Yeah. Milo, but I call him Miles.
Okay, so you use it interchangeably.
Yeah.
Well, that's terrible of you. Now the cat, he's not going to know his name because you just call him what you want. You're like, hey, this week you're going to be M style. You can't do that. Like, what the fuck? Milo says meow and stick to a name, Krish. I don't call you. Remember when somebody, dude, we've talked about this on air before, but remember when somebody tried, like someone who we both know in life, tried to tell me that you go by Chris?
Oh, yes, I did.
It was the weirdest. It was because I was like, oh, yeah, you know Krish. And she was like, Chris. And I'm like, nope, not his name. And she goes, he like she was almost like it was like I've been offending you for years. And she's like, Chris, he prefers. And I'm like,
yeah, I think it was an old college friend.
It was. I was like, all right. And then I asked you, I was like, hey, do you go by Chris? And you're like, no. Have you ever in your life gone by Chris? And you said, no, I haven't. And I said, okay, cool. Well, fun story for you. She convinced me.
Well, every time she would.
And I said, I've known him for years now. He has never said I go. I have seen him introduced on stage from everything from college gigs to open mics to bar shows to he has never said my name is Chris.
I think I tried to correct her at one point, but then she just kept doubling down on it, and I was
I'm just thinking about your feelings. Hey, my name's
is probably what you're gonna prefer to be called anyway.
That's
it's very entertaining when people like Chris. I go, no, it's Krish, and they go Chris. It's like, okay, well, I guess you made a decision there.
You're Chris. What, you think you get a say in this?
Yeah, you don't.
You're
We
Chris.
call you what we want, buddy. That's what happens here.
Trust me, you want to go with Chris.
You
Believe
wanna
me. Man.
Yeah.
Well, you are Krish. You
Yes.
are. That is the name you
fact.
told me. That is the name I have used for over a decade now, and will continue to use unless you change your mind. I mean, if you change your mind, at some point, I mean, do you? If you say, "Hey, Ron,"
but I will let you know.
Ron, I am an unpronounceable symbol now. I'm on board. I'll be like that. That's fine. You're my friend, and I mean, I think it's going to make it harder for people to find you online, but do you?
It's
You want to be
just
an
a
unpronounceable
noise.
symbol? I'm with.
My name is just a noise, Ron. That's what I'm going by now.
You know, to say my name, you need a kazoo, but so I'd appreciate it if you do it right. It's all right. Krish Mohan, check him out, KrishMohanHaha.com. Go to RobPlaco.com to get tour date tickets for both of us. Go to those websites, get your tickets.
Yes.
Don't wait. And in the meantime, Milo, who Krish is going to commit to a name for. Krish is good. I mean, he doesn't like it when people call him Chris, but meanwhile, he's like, my cat doesn't get. I'm not going to stick to a name.
For him.
But Milo says meow, and please stick to a name. And Lucy says meow back to Milo, and she says, hey, man, it's a drag for you. My name's Lucy. It always has been. They've never fucked around with my name. But Milo, see, now you got me doing it. Shit. Milo says meow, and Lucy says meow, and Krish says peace, and I say peace and love and a general strike. And shout out to the UMWA striking workers, and shout out to Daniel Hale for being a hero, and shout out to Bob Odenkirk. I hope he gets better soon, and we'll see you next time. Peace.